Good morning, friends. Today we'll be talking about the Banking Ombudsman Scheme. It is a part of the banker-customer relationship content that you have. So I'll be sharing the screen so that we'll be in a position to go through the various aspects which are there in relation to this, and maybe you will be in a position to frame your answer better. So basically, banker-customer relationship is a very important aspect because unless the banker-customer relationship is proper, the bankers will not have the customers approaching them. And the second part of it is because there are so many banks that are available in the financial system, if you are not satisfying your customers, there is nothing which is stopping him from going from your bank to another bank. So from that point of view, retention of customers is as much a concern for banks as it is for bringing fresh customers. So what could be the kind of relationships that are there between the banker and the customer? It depends upon the service for which a customer approaches bank. So if he is a depositor, he could be a borrower. In these cases, the relationship that is there is a debtor and creditor relationship. The second aspect of it is the relationship could be that of a principal or agent. So second and agent. In this particular case, I am going to assign the bank to invest on my behalf. I am engaging them for a portfolio management service. So I will entrust them with the responsibility of investing my money. The second thing could be a bailor-bailee relationship. That is, I have my safe custody vault, which the bank is having. I am availing of that custody vault. So in that safe deposit vault, I am putting my jewels, etc. So here the relationship that is there between the banker and me is a bailor-bailee relationship. Then mortgagee, I am taking a loan from the bank. I am depositing my title deeds with the bank. So I am the mortgager. He is the mortgagee. The banker is receiving the documents. So in that way, I am getting my loan. So these are the various kinds of relationships that are there will vary in relation to the kind of service that I am availing from the banker. The most important aspect which runs through all these relationships is that the banker-customer relationship is a fiduciary relationship. That is, it is a relationship of trust. The second part of it is any transaction between the banker and the customer will be emanating out of a contract. There will be certain terms and conditions that are there. I will fill in an application form and put my signature across, and the bank will provide me with the services as indicated in the contract. So it is basically a contractual relationship that is there. So good customer service is very, very important for maintaining a good relationship. And as I told you, if you don't maintain good relationship, it is only the bank which is going to lose out. And the second important aspect relating to this is a bad customer is a very bad advertisement for a bank. Similarly, a good customer is a good advertisement for a bank. So if I am satisfied with the services of a particular bank, I will tell that you can go to that particular bank. They have processed my loan very fast. They are very cooperative while dealing with instruments, etc. So this kind of word of mouth publicity that is there, it will enable the business of the banks to be enhanced. The other conduct is, I had a bad transaction with a bank, then I will go to every person whenever there is any discussion and say that this bank is. So in that way, maintaining good customer service will enable the bank to maintain not good relationship with me alone, but through my word of mouth, it will attract new customers, or it can detract new customers from joining the bank. The good service is important not only to attract new customers, but also to retain existing customers. Then grievance redressal is an important aspect which is necessary for maintaining this good relationship. It may so happen that you may not have the ideal things always. There could be small glitches in the relationship. Even the relationship that we have with our house brother, etc., there will be a problem. There will be grievances that will always be there. But if the approach to resolve these grievances is good, and if the institution resolves these grievances fast, then we will bury the differences that are there, and then we will continue to have it. If these grievances are not redressed, they will fester and they will create a problem where we will try to, again, sever the relationship with the customer or take up legal matters and then complicate the things both for the bank and for the customer. And ultimately, the sufferer is the system, which is not addressing these grievances in time. So from that point of view, grievances pose a threat to the confidence of the customer on the bank. So if it affects the banker-customer relationship, and the third thing is having systems to prevent grievances is ideal but utopic. That is, there should not be any grievances. I will have all the systems so that no grievances are there at all. So this cannot happen. So any small thing could always happen. So not having grievances at all and having systems to take care of it is very good, but it is not something that is achievable. But having systems to deal with grievances, there will be grievances, but I have put in place systems so that these grievances are examined, handled, and effectively resolved. That is the next best option that is available. So considering that the customer is the most important stakeholder in bank, it should have effective systems for providing good customer service. So basically, a bank should have an effective grievance redressal system, which is a part of providing good service. Then the commitment of the bank should be reflected by the bank board. So basically, there are certain things. The business is driven top down. Grievance redressal or the culture of a particular organization is driven top down. The efficiency of an organization is built bottom up. So the kind of emphasis that you need from the board for better customer services cannot be emphasized more, because it is their commitment to customer service which gets translated into the ethics of a particular organization down from the top executive or the board right up to the bottom customer, the person who is sitting on the counter. So from that point of view, commitment of board is also something which is very important. Then grievance redressal policy. Reserve Bank of India has given directions to all the banks indicating that they should have an internal grievance redressal system. And this internal grievance redressal system, how it should be, etc., is supposed to be a part of the board approved grievance redressal policy. So the objectives of the grievance redressal policy should be very clearly spelled out. It should ensure that all customers are treated fairly, and then any complaints relating to service deficiency are dealt with courtesy and resolved in a timely manner. So both these things are very important, and fair treatment of customers is a very important area aspect. So only because someone is an Ambani or a Adani, you don't provide good service to them and forget other persons who are common men. So every person should be treated fairly. Then the customers must be made aware of their rights so as to pursue alternate remedies. So if I don't get the appropriate service, I should know what should I do in case I am having a grievance or whom to approach. So that disclosure is supposed to be made. And once the disclosure is made, it will become a right for the customer. So if you don't solve my problem, I'll go to this person. And the policy having it is not useful. It has to be put on the public domain. That is, have it on the website, etc. Then give it in the documents which are there while opening of accounts or entering into relationships, etc. Then for capturing grievances, etc., most of the banks have customer relationship management systems, that is CRM systems. So what are the essential items that are there in the grievance redressal policy? So basically, they are supposed to indicate what are the channels of raising grievances. That is, through what channel, through what modes that I can approach and air my grievances to the institution so that they will be in a position to resolve it. So first, physical form, that is, you write a complaint form and hand it over. The second, electronic mechanism, that is, I could send an SMS, if not happy, etc. SBI came out with a campaign where merely saying that not happy, the bank will come back to you and then find out why you are not happy and resolve your. So there could be SMSs which are there. Then email, you could write elaborate emails to the customer service to record your grievances. Then through phone you can interact with the branch officials and then you can register your complaint. Call center is a very important and a popular mechanism. Then online complaint portals are also, facility is also provided for in the bank's websites where you can enter the grievances. Then handling of complaints, the first aspect of any complaint is you should have a record of it. For that, registration is necessary. Then second, recording and tracking of the complaint. So who is going to handle it, etc. Who is handling it? There has to be an acknowledgement which is supposed to be given. And then within a particular time frame, these grievances have to be resolved. Ideally, most of the banks have three-tier system of grievance redressal. One, they have the branch level functionary. The second is the regional nodal officer, then the principal nodal officer. And now Reserve Bank of India has come out with an internal ombudsman scheme also, which banks are supposed to have. That is someone who is not from the bank, but a senior level functionary. He will be the ombudsman, independent authority to be examining the resolution of grievance. So it is within the bank, but it is a third party which is sitting within the bank and addressing or redressing those grievances which the internal grievance redressal machinery is not in a position to resolve. So the first level, if it is not solved, then the complaint can be taken to a higher level. This is what is called escalation. So in this escalation channel, you have a principal nodal officer, and generally what is the time they give is 1 week is the resolution time that they provide. This is called as turnaround time. Then these three escalations, they will ensure that it is all done within about 30 days, so that if the grievance is resolved within 30 days, you don't have to go elsewhere. But if the grievance is not resolved within 30 days, then you will have to go, you have options to go to other grievance redressal authorities, and the most important grievance redressal authority is alternate grievance redressal authority, the banking ombudsman. Or you can even go to the regulator, Reserve Bank of India, saying that this fellow is not solving my grievance. Then for ensuring that the customer service is good and people, the bank officials get to know how the bank is servicing its customers, customer service committees are prescribed to be set up by the banks. One at the branch level, then second there is a standing committee and customer service committee of the board. So these committees focus basically on the customer service related issues, and ultimately the kind of grievances and the number of grievances that are there, they are supposed to be reported and they are supposed to be put in the public disclosures of the bank as well. Then interaction with customers for their feedback is something which has to be done on an ongoing basis. Basically, the customer service meets which are organized by banks serve this purpose. Then finally, interaction with popularizing the banking ombudsman scheme is also very important. Otherwise, both the bank and the customer may have to go to consumer court or other legal fora, and it is both costly and it is time consuming, and ultimately it will sour the relationship between the customer, and it will leave a bad taste, and nobody benefits out of a litigation. The next part of it is alternate grievance redressal. So if the bank's internal grievance redressal machinery is not able to solve the grievance or redress the grievance, you can approach alternate grievances redressal authorities. And the most important is the banking ombudsman, about which we will be talking. Then the consumer forum is another forum. Under the Consumer Protection Act, you can raise a complaint, and based on that, the decision will be taken by the consumer court. In case the grievance is not resolved by either of these forums, there is always an option to go to the courts. We will deal about these options also at the later part. So ombudsman. So basically, ombudsman system originated in Sweden. So he is an official who is charged with representing the interests of public and addressing complaints of maladministration or violation of rights. So basically, he is a third party, and because there is an institution and an individual, an ombudsman generally will be putting his weight on the side of the customer, because he is an individual, and an institution has a huge machinery to take care of it, but the individual does not have the machinery. So that is the concept of ombudsman. And here, banking grievances being handled by an independent authority, that is what is banking ombudsman. So banking ombudsman scheme was the first of these ombudsman schemes introduced in our country. So it is a scheme which is issued by Reserve Bank of India, exercising the powers under section 35A of the Banking Regulation Act. So basically this section talks about power of RBI to give issue directions to banks. And these directions are in the interest of banking policy, in the interest of depositors' interest, public interest, etc. So as a direction issued by Reserve Bank of India, it is a direction issued to the banks which are specified under this particular scheme. And non-compliance with these directions will attract penalties. So it was first introduced in 1995 and it became operational from 14 June 1995. The 1995 scheme was updated in 2006, making far-reaching changes. And periodically after that, it has been updated, keeping the systems, the grievances, and certain additional aspects in tune with the changing times. So basically, most important aspects that have been added is the provision to appeal, then handling of the entire scheme by Reserve Bank of India, the staffing of the entire offices by Reserve Bank of India, then providing for an appeal, increasing the grounds of complaint to include internet banking, then what is it? ATM cards, credit cards, etc. So all these are the changes that have been brought about. So presently what you have is the Banking Ombudsman Scheme 2006 as updated in 2017. So what is the Banking Ombudsman Scheme's objective? It is a scheme for enabling inexpensive and expeditious resolution and settlement of customers' grievances relating to certain services by banks. So it is enabling that is, it is an option that is available. You want to use it, use. If you don't, you don't. It is inexpensive, that is, there is a zero fee for filing a complaint with the Banking Ombudsman. It is expeditious. Generally, the effort is to resolve the complaint within not more than 3 months. Then there is a resolution and settlement. So here the Banking Ombudsman can act as a conciliation officer in terms of bringing about an amicable settlement between the banker and the customer. And in case that doesn't happen, he will resolve by passing an award or rejecting the complaint. Then of customer grievances relating to certain services. So here when we say customer grievances, it is basically a complaint relating to deficiency of service from the consumer court perspective also. But in this particular case, the deficiencies are certain services deficiencies are only covered, and these certain services are indicated as grounds on which the complaints can be raised under the scheme by banks. Here also it is not all banks, but certain banks. So basically, who is the Banking Ombudsman? He is a general manager or a chief general manager appointed by Reserve Bank of India. And the jurisdiction of each Banking Ombudsman is specified in Annexure 1 of the scheme. There are 21 Banking Ombudsmen, most of them in most state capitals which are there, except in the Northeast, you have only one. Then term of office, he is eligible for, the term is 3 years and he is eligible for reappointment. And the Secretariat of the Banking Ombudsman. So the entire infrastructure in terms of where the complaints are received, who are the persons who are processing, etc., and who bears the cost of it, the entire thing is Reserve Bank of India itself. That's it. So before this 2006, it was handled by the banks and the SLB, State Level Bankers Committee convener, which used to be the banker who used to administer the Ombudsman scheme. But in 2006, RBI totally took over the scheme, and now the staff, the funding, and the Ombudsman, all of them are from Reserve Bank of India. Then what are the banks which are covered? Not all banks are covered. Basically, all commercial banks are covered. That is public sector banks, private sector banks of all categories, that is new, old, etc. Then foreign banks, small finance banks and payment banks which came about recently, they are also covered. Then there are banks called urban cooperative banks. Not all urban cooperative banks are covered, but only scheduled urban cooperative banks are covered. This is about 50 to 60 of those banks, which are part of the second schedule of the Reserve Bank of India Act. That is, they fulfill certain criteria which are specified under Section 42 of the Reserve Bank of India Act. Then regional rural banks, these are banks which are set up under the RRB Act 1976. So only these banks are covered under the Banking Ombudsman Scheme. If it is a rural cooperative bank, then district central cooperative bank, or a state cooperative bank, those kind of complaints are not entertained by the Banking Ombudsman. They don't fall within the scheme. Then what is the complaint? Who can make a complaint? So any aggrieved person, and here the person includes individuals, company, or it could be a group of individuals, it could be a partnership firm, unincorporated entity, etc. Any of the person can file a complaint. Then jurisdiction. So the place where a complaint has to be made. If I am a complainant and I have my branch here in Hyderabad, then the Ombudsman of Hyderabad has jurisdiction over Hyderabad territory. So I will have to make a complaint to the Ombudsman, Banking Ombudsman Hyderabad. And this jurisdiction of each Ombudsman is provided for in the, as I told you, in first schedule, Annexure 1 to the scheme. Suppose most of the banks now have credit card operations, then central loan processing, etc. So in case of these kind of centralized transactions relating to cards, etc., where the billing address of the complaint is located, the Ombudsman having jurisdiction over that area, complaint should go to that area, that person. Then what is the pecuniary jurisdiction? Pecuniary jurisdiction is basically the amount up to which the Ombudsman can give an award. So what is the amount? Ombudsman can give and pass an award for the direct loss caused to the complainant. That is, there is a deficiency caused by the bank. There is a loss that is caused. That is, I have a deposit, the bank has not paid me the correct rate of interest on the deposit. So on that particular day that I booked, it was 7%, but the bank gave me 5% only. So what is the loss? What is the deficiency? The bank has not paid me proper interest. What is the loss that is caused to me? Where I should have got 7%, I have got only 5%. So the 2% interest loss is the direct loss. So this amount can be compensated by the order of the banking ombudsman. And what is the maximum? It should be maximum of 20 lakhs. If it is beyond that, then the banking ombudsman does not have jurisdiction. He will reject the complaint saying that the compensation that you are asking for is more than my pecuniary jurisdiction. So I cannot issue an order. But will he reject it? He can pass an order up to 20 lakhs. If you are okay with the 20 lakhs, you can get your complaint resolved through the banking ombudsman. If you don't, then you will have to approach an alternative forum. Then, in addition to it, there is a 1 lakh compensation which can be given in case of because of loss of time, expenses incurred in pursuing his complaint, then harassment which has been caused, mental agony, etc. So for all these aspects, this is basically direct loss. There is something called the indirect loss. Then the maximum compensation is of 20 lakhs for the direct loss caused due to the deficiency, and 1 lakh for the indirect losses that are caused in terms of loss of time, expenses, harassment, mental agony, etc. So this is exclusive of the money in dispute. Suppose I have a deposit of 1 crore. Merely having a deposit of 1 crore does not disentitle me from approaching the banking ombudsman because it is 20 lakhs and your amount is 1 crore. That is not the way in which you have to go about looking at the jurisdiction. So in 1 crore, I have a 2% deficiency of interest. So it works out to say 18 lakhs. So 18 lakhs being within the jurisdiction, I can file a complaint with the banking ombudsman. But if I have 3% and I am having a 30 lakh loss, which is directly caused because of the banking ombudsman, I can choose to apply to the banking ombudsman. He can give an order of 20 lakhs. If I am satisfied, I will take 20 lakhs and go. If I want 30 lakhs and I am asking the banking ombudsman to order for 30 lakhs, the banking ombudsman will reject my complaint saying that I cannot order beyond 20 lakhs because my jurisdiction is 20 lakhs of direct loss. Direct loss or 20 lakhs, whichever is higher. Okay, so this is as far as the pecuniary jurisdiction is concerned. Then the grounds of complaint. I told you certain areas of deficiency. So 25 areas of deficiency have been indicated, listed in the grounds of complaint. They are very common, like non-payment or delay in payment. Common complaints relating to services provided by the banks and problems in relation to that, like non-payment or delay in payment or refusal to issue check draft, etc. Refusal to accept notes, coins, or charging commission for exchange. Then refusal to open, close, or delay in closing the account without reason. So basically, opening or closing, you cannot direct the bank. That is not deficiency because it's their business decision. But if they are taking too much time for opening or closing of an account, or they are refusing to open or close without giving reasons, they can be ground for complaint to the banking ombudsman. Similarly, non-payment or delay in inward remittances. Then complaints from NRAs relating to deposits, remittances, etc. Then grievances relating to loans and advances. Then RBI has issued guidelines related to ATM, debit, prepaid cards, mobile banking, electronic banking services, credit card operations, etc. That two-factor authentication should be there, and all those kind of things. There should be a PIN which has to be provided. All those instructions, if the bank is not adhering to, then a complaint can be raised. There is an important document called the Banking Code and Standards Board of India, an organization which is a self-regulatory kind of an organization for the purpose of customer service. It comes out with a code of commitment for customers. Then there is another code which is code for micro, small, and medium enterprises. So there are certain things that they are supposed to do for their customers. So the BCSBA comes out with a model code. All the banks will adopt that code, and once that code is adopted, they are bound to comply with the commitments that are there. And if that commitment is not fulfilled, that can form a ground for complaint to the banking ombudsman. Similarly, fair practices code for lenders, etc. Those commitments also, if they don't fulfill, complaint can be made to the Reserve Bank of India. Then pension payments made by banks, if there is a delay or non-payment of pension, they can approach banking ombudsman. Then levying charges without notice can be a ground. Then non-adherence of RBI directives on interest on deposits. So recently you must have seen during COVID time saying that interest on interest should not be calculated. If someone has calculated, there is an RBI directive indicating that it should not be done and it should be reversed. If that has not been done, a grievance can be made to Reserve Bank of India. Then non-adherence to the guidelines on para-banking activities, engaging recovery agents, etc. So para-banking is a bank selling mutual funds, insurance products, then doing portfolio management, etc. So RBI issues directions relating to these activities. If these activities are carried not in compliance with RBI's directions, complaint can be made. Then engaging recovery agents and harassment by recovery agents. This can also be a ground for complaint. Then what do you do for filing a complaint? In case there is a deficiency of service, the first person you should approach is go to the bank, file a complaint with them. And if the complaint is not resolved or not, if it is rejected or if it is not responded to, then that complaint has to be made with the Reserve Bank of India. In this particular case, when you are making the complaint, all the details relating to the complaint have to be given, like name and address of the complainant, bank's complained against, then facts of the complaint, nature and extent of loss, and what is the relief that is being sought. If these aspects are given and the bank does not respond within 30 days, and if the reply is not satisfactory, then it becomes a ground for deficiency. Then how can complaint be filed with the banking ombudsman? There are different channels. One, you can write a letter. Second, you can give a physical form. Third, you can send an email across. And fourth, there is an online complaint form which is available on the RBI website, www.bankingombudsman.rbi.org.in. If you go there, there is a form of complaint. You click on it, fill in the details. Online complaint can be filed. So the format of complaint is provided for in the Annexure A. A representative can also be engaged for pursuing or handling your complaint, but this representative cannot be an advocate. Then complaints received from central government, from other regulators, etc., are also received by Reserve Bank of India. Various departments also. So wherever you are having a complaint which is falling within the jurisdiction, they will somehow be sent to Reserve Bank of India, and all those complaints received not from the complainant but from secondary sources are also managed by Reserve Bank of India. Then precautions before filing complaints. So these are basically preliminary aspects that you have to check. One, if a complaint is filed, if no reply is given by the bank to your complaint, you have to come to the banking ombudsman within 1 year and 1 month of the complaint. If a reply is given to the bank by the bank and you are not satisfied with it, you have to come to the ombudsman within 1 year. That is limitation. Within the period of limitation specified also, you should be coming to the banking ombudsman. Then if the same cause of action, you have filed a complaint before the banking ombudsman and he has already disposed or he is examining it, then you cannot come. Then if he is going to a court or tribunal, if on the same ground, you cannot approach the Reserve Bank of India's banking ombudsman. And the complaint should not be frivolous or vexatious. And if the complaint attracts any one of the above, it will be rejected as non-maintainable. Otherwise, it will be taken up for further action. That is, it will be forwarded to the bank for examination. Once the response is received, the banking ombudsman forwards it to the complainant, giving him an opportunity to furnish his comments. If he is satisfied with the response and if the bank complies with whatever is asked for, then the complaint will be treated as settled. Otherwise, banking ombudsman will attempt to provide a conciliation and mediation between the banker and the customer. They can do it through calling for a meeting. Then both the documents, the banker and the customer come, then they will see if the complaint can be resolved. And if they come for a meeting, the proceeds are recorded and both the parties, the banker representative and the complainant or his representative will sign. And if the resolution is possible, then the complaint is treated as resolved and the settlement is also signed by both the parties. If it is not resolved, then the banking ombudsman will have to examine the complaint. He will examine the response and there is a meeting, whatever discussions have taken place there, submissions that have been made will be examined. Then based on the facts, submissions, evidence produced, banking law and practice, RBI's instructions, directions, etc. The banking ombudsman will issue a decision. For this purpose, arriving at a decision, he can call further information from the bank, and he can also call for further documents, etc. from the complainants also. But if the bank is asked to furnish some information and they don't produce it, the banking ombudsman can take an adverse inference. That is, if they would have produced it, it would have been not in favor of the bank. So they can take that kind of an inference. So basically, he is supposed to be operating using fair play and principles of natural justice. So if someone says that this particular document is confidential, but I am sharing with you, then he can examine. If it should not be shared, it is his decision. If it is in the interest of fair play and natural justice that it should be disclosed, then he will disclose it. Then once he takes a decision, the decision could be either the rejection of complaint on indicating whatever reasons. Then he can issue an award, again giving the reasons, granting the relief or granting some relief to the complainant. The proceedings that a banking ombudsman takes up are summary in nature. That is it's not an elaborate court procedure kind of thing. Then the grounds of rejection of complaint there are certain grounds where there cannot be an appeal, and there are certain grounds where an appeal can be filed. So what are the grounds of complaint? Non-appealable grounds. First, the ground is not on those grounds of complaints which I have indicated. The 25 grounds of complaint, it is not on one of those grounds. The second thing is the complaint is non-maintainable. That is, it is not against the bank which is coming under the scheme. It is not, within 1 year, no complaint has been raised with the bank before coming to the banking ombudsman. It is beyond limitation period. It is being handled by a consumer forum already, or it has already been decided by a court, or it is under arbitration. So any of these items, it becomes a non-maintainable complaint. Then if the compensation sought is beyond the pecuniary jurisdiction, then also the complaint will be rejected. So on these grounds, if the rejection is done, they cannot go on an appeal. What are the grounds on which appeal can be filed? One, if the banking ombudsman says that the complaint requires elaborate oral and documentary evidence to decide, and the banking ombudsman is a summary disposal organization. So if he feels that it requires elaborate, imagine a fraud in relation to ATM, someone else has used the machine. So in these cases, the banking ombudsman may feel that I don't want to go into details, so he may close. But this complaint, if it is provided for an appeal, so maybe the appellate authority will ask for CCTV footage, etc. And then he may probably feel that you may have an opportunity to decide. Otherwise, you are going for an easy way of closure. So an appeal there is being permitted now. Earlier, this was not provided. Then ground, if the complaint is closed saying that it is without sufficient cause. Then second thing, if he says that it is not pursued with diligence by the complainant. Someone gives a complaint and I send him the response, but he doesn't come back to me at all. So in those cases, the banking ombudsman can close the complaint saying that he has not pursued with diligence. But for all you know, the document that he has submitted is lost in transit, etc. So there is an appeal which is provided for this cause. Then no loss, damage, or inconvenience is caused to the complainant. So I may be not providing the service, but by not providing service, there is no loss caused to you. So the complainant, he'll say that he has harassed me. You must, you must ask the fellow to touch my feet, etc. These kind of strange complaints also keep coming. So in that case, the banking ombudsman may say that there is no loss that is caused, so I will close the complaint. So these grounds of complaint, there can be an appeal which can be filed. So in both these cases of rejection as well as an award, a reasoned order is supposed to be given, which is one of the important principles of natural justice. So the award is a direction of the bank after hearing both the parties. Then a reasoned award is supposed to be given containing few aspects. One, the reasons. Second, the amount of compensation that has been ordered. Then some 1 lakh cost can also be ordered. So what is the amount of cost that is supposed to be that is ordered? And this amount total is supposed to be paid by the bank. That is how an award is written. And this award is communicated to both the parties. The complainant, if he is satisfied, he must indicate and send a saying that I am accepting the award in full and final settlement of my grievance against the bank. And if he doesn't, he has to send it to the bank within 30 days. If within 30 days he doesn't do it, then the order will be said to be lapsed. That is, the bank is not obliged to act on the award. Second thing is, if he submits the letter of acceptance, within 1 month, the bank has to comply with the award. Or if he is not satisfied with the award, the complainant can go to a appellate authority. Similarly, a bank also can go to for the appellate authority in case the award is issued and accepted by the customer. If the award is not accepted by the customer, there is no need for going for an appeal, because there is no obligation for the bank to comply with the award. Then appeal. Appeal lies against the award. Appeal lies against the rejection for the 4 appealable grounds. That is, I told, where there is a need for elaborate documentary evidence. The second thing is where there is the complaint is without sufficient cause, or it is not being pursued with diligence. And next is there is no loss or any inconvenience caused to the complainant. So the authority to whom an appeal has to be made is the deputy governor in charge of the department administering the scheme. The scheme is being administered by a department called the Consumer Education and Protection Department. And who is the deputy governor under whose charge this department comes? He will become the appellate authority. And the appeal has to be filed by the complainant within 30 days of rejection or passing of the award or receipt of the award. In case of a bank, within 30 days of receipt of the letter of acceptance, they will have to file the appeal. And to ensure that the bank takes due notice of the award and does not file appeal on every award that is passed, the power to file an appeal is only after getting the sanction from the chairman or managing director or executive director or the chief executive officer of the bank. So at the highest level, they will have to examine this case and if they find that this is something which I am not going to comply with their sanction, they will have to file an award. And the grace period, not more than 30 days, they can file and the appellate authority can entertain an appeal. The appellate authority again will give an opportunity of being heard to both the parties, or he may merely see the documents that are there, the appeal document and the response document from the other party. Then what are the actions that an appellate authority can take? He can dismiss the appeal, and once he dismisses, he is upholding the BO's order. That is either the rejection or the award. Then he may allow the appeal and set aside the BO's order. He may modify the order of the banking ombudsman. Then he may remand the order for fresh disposal, giving directions to modify the order. Suppose there are certain documents which are there. So those documents he will give, and then he will say that by taking these documents into account, now you decide the case again. He can remand to the banking ombudsman, and he can pass any other order. So all these options are available for the appellate authority. So basically, an appellate authority has the same pecuniary jurisdiction and powers as a banking ombudsman comes. So if you go on an appeal, an appellate authority will sit in the banking ombudsman's shoe and re-decide the case. But he doesn't have any increased pecuniary jurisdiction. Like in case of a district forum, you have 1 crore pecuniary jurisdiction. The appellate authority has 10 crore pecuniary jurisdiction. So there is no difference in terms of banking ombudsman or the appellate authority in the pecuniary jurisdiction or any other matter. Then options after the decision is taken, the appellate authority also decides the matter. Then the parties can accept the decision. Then the complainant can approach the consumer forum for deficiency of service. He can approach the district forum, state or national forum, depending upon the pecuniary jurisdiction as provided under the Consumer Protection Act, the recently amended one, 2019 or 20. That has to be, they can file a complaint. Then they can approach police if it is a fraud and pursue criminal action against the fraudster and the bank also. Then they can approach a civil court, because basically any banking grievance is a dispute in contract. Then they can approach a bank, they can approach the High Court or the Supreme Court through a writ petition, because in that particular case, this is applicable only in case of public sector banks where they fall within the definition of state under Article 12 of the Constitution. So this is as far as the procedure relating to the Banking Ombudsman is concerned. The important item that is there in the Banking Ombudsman Scheme is advocacy. That is, all the banks have to display the purpose of the scheme and the name and address of the Banking Ombudsman in all branches for customer awareness. Then a copy of the Banking Ombudsman should be made available in the branch with the designated official so that any customer can go through it. Then each bank should appoint a nodal officer for each Banking Ombudsman's jurisdiction. So wherever there is a meeting, this nodal officer should come to the Banking Ombudsman and represent the bank in respect of that meeting. Then at the central level also there has to be a principal nodal officer. So generally what are the levels of escalation that are there are first the branch grievance officer, then the nodal officer of the Banking Ombudsman, the third one is the principal nodal officer, and finally internal ombudsman, and then they will come to the Reserve Bank's Banking Ombudsman. Then RBI also conducts awareness programs at different locations and in print and electronic media also. You must have seen advertisements of Umesh Yadav, then what is it? Parvez Rasool, then KL Rahul. All of these people are employees of Reserve Bank of India, and they have done advertisements popularizing the Banking Ombudsman Scheme. Then annual report. An annual report on the review of activities of the Banking Ombudsman and other required information has to be sent to the governor by each ombudsman, indicating how many complaints they have handled, received, how many are still pending. Then classification of complaints depending upon the ground, mode of receipt, nature of complaint, disposal, etc. Number of awards they have issued, important cases handled, etc. Then disposal of complaints, rejected, non-maintainable, rejected on various grounds, amicably resolved, awards passed, etc. All this report has to be forwarded to the governor by each Banking Ombudsman. And RBI will consolidate all this and they may publish a report in a consolidated form. The RBI has been publishing an annual report on the Banking Ombudsman Scheme, consolidating the entire thing. So complaint statistics of all BOs, then appeals and their disposal. They are also incorporating the customer service related instructions that have been issued by Reserve Bank of India during the year. Then they are also discussing important cases settled by the Banking Ombudsman or the appellate authority. This is as far as the annual report is concerned. Then at any point of time, RBI can suspend operation of this scheme, just like it's a direction that is given. So at any point of time, I can suspend operation of this direction. If it is expedient to do so, it can suspend any or all the provisions of the scheme for a period specified in the order, either generally or in relation to a specified bank, and can extend the order from time to time. RBI will do this suspension of operation by an order indicating all those particular details. This is as far as the Banking Ombudsman Scheme is concerned. Then what are the vision and goals of the Banking Ombudsman Scheme? So vision is to act as a visible and credible dispute resolution agency for common persons utilizing banking services. So basically, it is for the person who cannot afford a court, etc., or he is not interested in going to a court because of the long drawn procedure. So it should be a visible and credible dispute resolution agency. What are the goals? To ensure grievance redressal of users of the banks in an inexpensive, expeditious, and fair manner that provides impetus to improve customer services in the banking sector on a continuous basis. Then provides policy feedback or suggestions to RBI. So basically, whenever you are having more number of complaints of a particular kind, like ATM complaints are there, credit card harassment complaints are there. So this will indicate that there is some problem in the customer service in relation to that product. Then RBI will examine the regulations which are there in relation to that product and then come out with regulatory modifications. So the Banking Ombudsman Scheme through complaints provides an important indicator about the bank's customer service and also relating to the various problems that customers are facing relating to products or banks or group of banks. So this will require policy interventions. So they will frame appropriate policy and prepare guidelines. As example, your credit card guidelines, then fair practices code, then pensioner, giving them penal interest. Then all these have been done by Reserve Bank of India based on the complaints that are received by the banking ombudsman. Then they can improve the level of feedback. They can use the feedback for improving the level of customer service to strengthen the internal grievance redressal system. Then the other goal is to increase awareness of the Banking Ombudsman Scheme and to facilitate quick and fair, non-discriminatory redressal of grievances through use of IT systems comprehensively and easily accessible database and enhanced capabilities of staff through capacity building. So basically, there is the what is it, call center and other facilities are there. Then online complaint portals are there of banks and of Reserve Bank of India. So all this basically uses IT for quick examination, and through the system only the complaint can be passed to the bank, to the particular branch at the bank level, from the banking ombudsman to the bank, and bank to banking ombudsman, the response, etc. So the speeding up of process and efficiency in the system will be built. That is one of the goals. Then other ombudsman in the financial system, you have an ombudsman for non-banking financial companies for dealing with complaints against specified NBFCs. Here the NBFCs are those which are either accepting deposits or those which are not deposit taking, but whose asset size is more than 100 crores and who have a customer interface. Then ombudsman for digital transactions. These are for entities which are offering the digital banking services. That is, they are not banks, but they are mobile wallets. Then those kind of agencies, if there are complaints relating to them, for dealing with those complaints, an ombudsman for digital transactions has also been instituted. Basically, he is operating, the same ombudsman is operating as ombudsman for digital transactions also. So because that scheme is covering banks, this scheme is of non-banks. This scheme is a separate scheme which has been introduced by RBI. Outside RBI, IRDA also has an insurance ombudsman. So this is as far as the ombudsman scheme is concerned. So the additional reading items are also provided here. You can take the screenshot and visit this to understand what is the coverage. Okay, thank you.